Good morning. It's Sunday, May 26th, and this country is probably well known in the rest of the world for all of the mass shootings that go on in this country. We outnumber almost every other country in the world in gun violence, and that's a disgrace. And I want to talk about the mass shooting criteria that exists right now. So we have a mass shooting, which is a killing of at least 4 people in one incident. And right now in the United States, at the end of April, we've already had 256 people killed in mass shooting, along with 605 people who have been wounded. And that's 172 incidents that involve almost 1,000 people. But beyond that, there were mass shootings before. What is surprising, if you look at the map that's included in this talk, you'll see that the eastern half of this country is where most of the mass shootings take place. I found that to be very interesting. I thought that there would be many mass shootings west of the Mississippi, but that's not the case. So that's just one thing that I discovered in this little talk that I'm about to give. And it's interesting, one of those major mass shootings, which took place in Uvalde, that's in Texas, took place 2 years ago. And now there's a big lawsuit that is going to take place in California and in Texas. The shooter in this case was an 18-year-old gunman, and he killed 19 children and 2 teachers in his attack at the Robb Elementary School. So now the families of the victims in the school shooting are suing the manufacturer of the gun used in the attack and the maker of a video game and its Instagram parent company, Meta. In 2 lawsuits, they claim the companies helped promote dangerous weapons to a generation of socially vulnerable young men. And that, of course, included the 18-year-old gunman. Now, the lawsuits that were filed in Texas and California are against Activision, the developer of the military video game series called Call of Duty, and Daniel Defense, the gun manufacturer known for its high-end rifles. And of course, Meta. The companies are accused of being responsible for grooming a generation of young people who live out violent video game fantasies in the real world with easily accessible weapons of war. Now that's a big attack on several industries, the video game industry, the gun manufacturers, for promoting the fantasies that young people have. And the gunman was an 18-year-old kid named Salvador Ramos, who used an AR-15 style rifle in this attack. Oh, how in the world does an 18-year-old gunman get a rifle like that? I would say that there have been recent suits that have involved the parents of the villains and held some of them accountable. And that would be a wonderful thing if the parents of Salvador Ramos were put on trial as accessories to murder. How would that look? What would this country think about something like that? Can parents claim innocence if they're 18 or 19 or 17-year-old or however young their children are, go around and kill somebody? a mass shooter, I would think that the parents should be held responsible for that. They can't claim that they didn't know what was going on. And how did this 18-year-old kid get this gun? Now, this is not a hunting rifle or anything. This is a weapon that soldiers use. And maybe the state of Texas should be held responsible for this, for allowing an 18-year-old kid to get a gun like that without parental permission or something. Oh. And maybe 18 is okay, is a certain age limit or something. But certainly, if you're allowed to get your hands on a weapon like that, there ought to be some record keeping and there ought to be some methodology that this is a person that has to be watched very closely. In fact, in the lawsuit, it contends that Meta and Activision knowingly exposed this young man to the gun he used in Uvalde and conditioned him to see it as the solution to his problems. The lawsuits also claim that Instagram and Activision and Daniel Defense have been partnering in a scheme that preys on insecure adolescent boys. So are they claiming that these companies are producing mass murderers? That's an awfully large claim to expect any jury to agree to. But there's a direct line between the conduct of these companies and the Uvalde shooting. That's what the lawsuit is contending. This is a three-headed monster, they said, that knowingly exposed this vulnerable child and conditioned him to see it as a tool to solve his problems. And they trained him to use it. That's really tremendous, wide open charges against the companies. And according to the lawsuit, the gunman had been playing a game called Call of Duty, war-based video with a rifle similar to the one that he used in the shooting. And he'd been playing that game since he was 15 years old. So there's a lot of blame to go around in this mass shooting. And certainly the parents of this child should be held equally responsible. And I don't know why that's not happening. That should happen more often if parents are held responsible for their actions of adolescent children. Maybe some of this violence would stop. There are too many young men with guns and troubled, and I think it's parental responsibility to be taking care of those children. So I leave you with that. A lawsuit coming from a disaster in Uvalde. We'll have to see what happens here. Have a great day. Bye.